few holes in them just to get them a little worried.
How do you start these off? Normally I'm the one narrating, so I really don't know.
Sea of Thieves character tier lists.
What he said.
Stop asking questions.
Yeah, so you could shut up. Want us make our videos without... I'm kidding.
Alright, so this one is going to be about...
This is canon. This is
like
the
actual
canon characters.
Yeah, so our like Telltale characters like Emerald Beard, Arcturus, they aren't included.
Yeah, so
that will be a separate video.
To clarify what that means is it's like I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Star Wars. I for one am not that very. But basically in Star Wars there are two different categories for storytelling. There's the canon, which is like what's accepted as like the actual real occurrence, and then there's the Legends continuity, which is literally everything that isn't canon to the canon, if that makes sense. So our term
additional stories to the world without the world actually having to live with the consequences of. Yeah,
basically. So basically, we're not lame. We're not gonna call them legends because that's dull. We call them tall tales, and it fits with the theme, so I think it works pretty well. Anyway. Yeah. So let's start off here. Oh yeah, as you can see, we have the tier list. First off, this was not in the correct color sequence when this started. I had to go in and edit that, so you're welcome. Wait a minute, it's still red! Wait! It didn't change whatever. It. Fine, okay.
Red means
this is good. If you're familiar with the tier system,
red is good.
It's D sucks, C is slightly better but still pretty bad. B is decent, A is good, and S is like god tier. By the scaling of that continuity. Like by god tier, I don't mean like going up against D-Luke or something like that.
Exactly.
All the D-Luke. The D-Luke haters from the other class videos is like, oh, you're gonna
for cringe anime.
Flameheart, oh mid-dip, hello. Anyway, moving on. Alright. So we got Amarantha.
So we know Amarantha did manage to beat Merrick.
Yes.
Which I'm not sure is saying much.
Yeah, he's an old man. It was a sneak attack. To be fair, she was in the arena. You she is a combatant. She's got some skill at the least.
So
the problem is most of her power isn't. Most of her reputation at this point in the story isn't really her own. It's the fact she's got the Gold Hoarder's head on a stick.
Yeah. So I would say that she's better than most people, but not quite to the level of somebody who's that experienced. So I would put her at a B. No.
Cool.
B or C.
I think C. C might be a little harsh.
C's a bit too. Yeah.
I think C's harsh again because she can move between the worlds. It's not her power.
We reserve the right to change our decisions based on other characters that enter the field.
Also, again, and if there's an update in the lore later, I don't know, let's go with the ferryman gets curb stomped by I don't know Merrick. As unlikely as that is occurring, if events change, we will update the tier list. But for the moment, this is based off of current stuff we know now. From in-game events, from story lore, that kind of a deal. So.
And comic books.
And the comics. Boy, the books are great. The comics, man, I'm telling you, the comics, they hurt. As a comics enthusiast, they're painful. Listen, I read Pirates of the Caribbean comics. They made 4 of them. And then the series ended. And they were loads better than the Sea of Thieves comics, man. They're so much better. Alright, I'm saying sidetrack. Alright, Ancient Priest. We know so little about him, but I still think he's I think he's A tier.
Really? Because from what we know about him, is he's much more of like a priest. He's very much there to lead
that's right.
Give guidance versus a combatant. Just from the scale that we have now, I think in a straight up fight, Amarantha would beat him.
Yeah.
So I would put him
I would put him
It
in B
is
tier, honestly.
B or C, because he's not exactly a combatant.
Yeah.
But he is a good
He is
character,
powerful, but again, not in a fight.
powerful, but not in a fight.
And the trick with the ancients is we know that especially the ancient priest, we know he's powerful. We've seen him do this whole like ritual or whatever on Plunder Valley. We've seen that, but like based off of like let's say the adventure where Return of the Damned, where we had to either get the forts for Pendragon and Belle or for Flameheart and the Servant. Off of that, the Reapers had Reapers guarding theirs. We had ancients. So the ancients in terms of combat really only like comparatively scale to the Reapers, which isn't saying much because most Reapers are not very good.
Yeah.
So, okay, but with that in mind, mostly because he's an ancient and we know he has magical like capabilities, I will put him at a cautious B tier. This
Between
could
like B and C.
yeah,
It could change depending on who else we have.
I'm gonna I'll be nice and put him in B tier, but this could very well be subject to change because we know we're getting an adventure later with the ancient priest in it. So I mean, it could go to A tier if he actually does something good. It could go to C tier if he just sits on his butt and does nothing, like Belle.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to that in a minute.
Exactly.
She's right there.
Oh, we'll get to Belle.
Alrighty, Ashen Lords.
Ashen Lords. Well, because we know they aren't actually that impressive.
Because here's the thing, right? Let's get this. We'll get it down in the list, but let's get this out of the way. Flameheart's an easy S tier. I hate him as a character, but I mean he is a powerful character. He can summon ships from the Sea of the Damned. He's an Ashen Lord, but the Ashen Lords cave into heart attacks, right? And again, from the Pendragon comics, I didn't like them. There were dinosaurs, and I'm a dinosaur guy. It didn't make sense. Anyway, Pendragon, without the Sword of Souls, was able to take an Ashen Lord. And he had to try, but it didn't, it wasn't like, he's about to die kind of a deal. Like, he wasn't on his last leg. Like, I mean, he was pretty healthy after he came out of that fight. This man had the balls to just raise the skull up in the air like, oh yeah, victory. So honestly,
do they even have any like actual, like, did they actually do anything in the lore other than exist as something for us to fight?
no, they existed. Like they did think. Like, are you talking before Flameheart's rebirth or after?
Either. Did they do anything at all? That
Yeah, they were
the
basically
story?
like his not envoys, but like they were representatives of his physical presence on the battlefield where he couldn't, in a sense. Another thing.
So just warriors.
Yeah, basically. And there is another Ashen Lord other than the main four, because the only ones we've seen in game are Warsmith, not Warsmith. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Warren Chi, Captain Grimm, Red Roof, and Old Horatio. Right? There's a fifth one whose name I can't remember because. Sorry.
Turn into one.
Then who?
Stitcher Jim.
Yeah, and Stitcher Jim.
He was
But he's like, I get he is an Ashen Lord. I don't think of him as an Ashen Lord, and I know I should, because I always think of like the Herald of Flame, but he was just a glorified Ashen Lord.
He has the powers of an Ashen Lord, and in the adventure where we took care of him, it did just take the pirates or whatever that went over there to take care of him.
And like
So
two
I
ancients, which is,
yeah,
is practically
like,
nothing.
I don't think they scale higher than people, but I don't think overall they're as powerful as more advanced characters.
And that's another thing. This is where the scaling gets a little stupid. Not on our part, on Rare's part. In that Tall Tale, or adventure actually, Pendragon over here wasn't able to breach the shield because he's like, the power of the roar is too strong, and I'm like, so you need us to kill the Ashen Lord when you have a history of killing Ashen Lords? But this makes no sense. Again, so that's where the scaling gets a little stupid. Not because of us, but because the inconsistencies Rare has dealt us.
Yeah.
So I would give the Ashen Lords an A tier.
I would put them in A for now as well. Yeah.
And again, from a lore perspective, I know these guys are are supposed to be more difficult than they are in the game, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of and we'll get into this when we do the partner scaling, is a lot of competent pirates scale really high in comparison to in-game characters, just based off of the gameplay and the ease of success. And again, even pre-nerf, because I know anyone can take an Ashen Lord now solo.
Yeah, no.
We're talking pre-nerf, because post-nerf everything is just so sad.
Ridiculously easy.
the Ghost of Grey Marrow dies to a mega keg. A single mega keg with a slip through it's at. Anyway, now let's get to the fun one. The one everyone has been waiting for with bated breath. Belle.
Belle, we know, is canonically not very strong. Not
listen,
good at
to be
fighting.
clear, I'm just going to be quiet for a little bit. This is Ark's rant, because he has a passionate dislike, not even a biased dislike for Belle, a perfectly justified dislike for Belle.
That we could go in a different video for that. I'll make my own video or a short bringing up all the points of that. But Belle is so overrated. Everything Belle does has backfired in some way. We know the only time Belle every time we start fighting, Belle always backs up and lets everybody else handle it. Especially in the Legend of the Veil, where she shows up and gives us the lantern to help us light all the statues and stuff. When all the Reapers and the Ancients are fighting, she's nowhere to be seen. The one time we've actively seen her in a fight was against the Shrouded Ghost,
and she couldn't even aim a cannon correctly.
Yeah, where she couldn't aim the cannon, and they ended up getting destroyed.
Well, yeah, that is the thing. You see her shoot cannons when you do the adventure. The fact of the matter is, she and Merrick got wrecked. Actually wrecked. No. By the Shrouded Ghost. Honestly, I should have put the Shrouded Ghost on this list. I think he'd be an A tier. He might even be an S tier.
You probably, yeah.
But yeah, to be fair, we know she has a history with Ramsey, so there's got to be some level of respect if Ramsey trusts her that much. However, Ramsey is by no means perfect. He's a flawed individual. No. He makes mistakes. So, this is a pretty big oopsie.
Even then, I think Belle's greatest strength is her knowledge. She knows a lot about magic and the Sea of the Damned and stuff. That's her specialty. She doesn't show up for fights. The one fight she was in, she needed us to intervene and fight the shark for. I don't think she ranks very high.
Literally every ritual she's conducted, we've had to do the fighting.
Yeah.
To get the stuff for the ritual, she couldn't have been bothered to do it herself. We had to go fight that too.
Yeah. If she were that capable on her own, she wouldn't need to bring around the priest everywhere, which I suppose could be a point of argument for the priest.
I would say,
but combat-wise, I would put her at a C.
I was gonna say, as overlooking bias, as she's just not a good character, in that aspect. I think she's C tier. She would be a D tier in my opinion, if not for the fact that, again, has knowledge about the Sea of the Damned, is in that she has knowledge about that, and she is a decent magic user. So for that reason, she's in C tier.
She's skilled enough with magic and has knowledge, but that alone isn't enough to stand for a combat practice.
So that's a C tier that very well could be and again, after some more adventures, it could be a D tier. So stay tuned for that. All right, now this is an interesting one because this is tricky, in the sense she has multiple forms. But now we got Briggsy. I would argue Briggsy, honestly, it's like what you said earlier. I think Briggsy falls in between that A and B tier.
Briggsy and her Skeleton Lord form
would probably be
definitely A tier.
Yeah.
She would definitely beat Ashen Lords. forms. Brixie in her human form, I think, is upper B tier because she's definitely a skilled fighter. But again, she's not known for combat capabilities.
Yeah.
Like if she went against somebody like the Servant who has actually like been like trained and like actively in a war and whatnot, she would probably lose. But she is not somebody to laugh at.
Yeah. With that in mind, I think I'm gonna. I know I should have. It's not like the Ghost of Greymarrow, and we'll get to that in a second. Greymarrow and the Ghost of Greymarrow are technically two separate entities, but with Briggsy, it's tricky because it's kind of like Stitcher Jim, where she has two different forms. Although, to be clear, Stitcher Jim's final form, if you'll pardon the expression, was the Herald of Flame and was an Ashen Lord. Briggsy's original form was human, and then she got turned into Skeleton Lord, then she died, and then we brought her back as a human. But with that, I think we put her at A tier, just going off of her peak.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of my videos,
that, yeah.
I go off of Prime, and I get in the videos, I also haven't had her as a Skeleton Lord, but Prime Briggsy would have been Skeleton Lord Briggsy, so I think that's an A tier.
I agree with that.
And I know I've done this in my video, I think Skeleton Lord Briggsy would be able to take most, if not all, of the Ashen Lords, other than obviously Flameheart.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
All right, Davy Jones, this is not an argument. This is not up for debate.
Yeah,
easy S tier.
easy
If you
S tier.
argue this, for whatever reason, you need help.
I'm sorry. He is literally unkillable unless you find his heart.
Or plot. Because, again, and this is something I think
yeah,
needs to be addressed in the final tall tale of Pirate's Life. There was literally no reason for him to have died or the Dutchman to just simultaneously get blown up. There was no reason, all right?
There was, like, you could make the argument that what's her face?
Teodalma. Because Teodalma was involved,
but
and she's the sea goddess.
But we don't have any, like, explicit confirmation.
And that is a thing, because I've heard that argument from a couple partners regarding that, where they argued that the reason Davy Jones was vulnerable was basically because previously when you stabbed the heart, he died. They had argued that basically his new heart in the Sea of Thieves for some reason was the pendant. And when Teodalma destroyed it, it made him vulnerable. Except that doesn't hold water, because we already hear from Davy Jones in the fourth tall tale, the captain is the one who has his heart.
Yeah.
So that argument doesn't hold water. Like, unless the captain just decided, oh, you've outlived your usefulness or something, like, blah-de-da, and just decided to stab it, like, in the middle of the fight, which I don't know how he would know, like, that they were losing. It's possible.
It's reasonable, but again, we don't have
no
any
evidence
explicit
for it.
Confirmation. It is all just, like, headcanons. And
yeah. And again, this is a guy who has supernatural strength and durability. You can't kill him.
Phase through.
Yeah, phase through
like...
objects. He had the ability to find a literal god in human form. I'm sorry. No one else on this list has that kind of power.
Yeah, so easy S tier.
Oh,
no arguments
great.
taken.
I just realized something. You know who's missing from this list?
Who's missing?
The Castaway.
Castaway S tier.
Castaway should be S tier. Easily.
Editing. The power of editing with post-production.
We'll it'll just slide in from the right side of the screen and work its way up there. But like, in all seriousness, just to address that, Castaway is easily the most powerful character in the Sea of Thieves. By far.
I feel like a lot of people seem to...
They think the Castaway is different from Teodalma.
Or they haven't realized. The Castaway is Teodalma. She is Calypso. She is the god of the sea.
And like, this is a lady who casually made a giant whirlpool. Like, this is also a lady who
the Maelstrom,
bigger
controlled
than
all the crabs, who turned into a giant, and all of the Castaway is a god of the sea.
Yeah, no one on this list realistically has a chance of beating her. Honestly, like, realistically, no one in... Well, we can get to that, when we do that list. No one even in the Tall Tales category really should be able to take her. Like, she's just that overpowered. Alright. So moving on. DeMarco.
All right. DeMarco say.
I would argue B tier. I think.
Oh yeah, B tier.
Listen, he does not, I don't think he's going up against Ashen Lords. He's good. He's really good by human standards, but he's not Skeleton Lord, Ashen Lord good.
I think a lot of people rank him correctly, but for the wrong reasons. While he is involved in, like, the arena and combat, he knows what he's doing, but we can tell just by how eccentric he is, like the way he dances around. He is a lot more of a show person, like a show.
Well, and that's something
he's
even
not
from the comics. Is like
yeah, like he's not.
Oh, sorry, I'll let you finish. My bad.
Yeah, it's like he's not actively getting. Well, he knows how to fight. He's not actively getting involved in all of the battles. He's just there as more of like a spectator, just to make it all flash look a lot, to make it look a lot better. I wouldn't say that he takes a lot of these characters who know what they're doing in like most of these fights.
So, and that is one thing. In the comics, Lacetti, when they're going like actually starting the Sea Dog Tavern, trying to get funding from all the companies, Lacetti sums it up perfectly. DeMarco is the voice of the Sea Dogs. He likes being the one in the front. I don't mind, because I would rather be the sword. DeMarco is the face of the Sea Dogs. Lacetti is the real, like, you know, one behind the scenes, if you will.
Real combat.
Yeah, and even like in the comics, like DeMarco didn't even want to get shot out of a cannon. Like, he was like, "You expect me to stick myself in that?" Like, literally. And he has a lot more like, you know, this grandiose kind of like thinks he's all that. So yeah, I'd say B tier.
Yeah, B tier definitely.
Oh, poor Duke. Oh, sweet. Poor innocent Duke. I hate to do it to him. I think he's a great character. He's a great character.
One of the best characters in the story. But
he's just gotten butchered with this whole Dark Brethren arc. I think he's C tier.
Yeah.
Because listen, he may not have the magical capabilities of this lady, but at least he knows how to fight. He's the Dark Brethren's muscle now that the Gold Hoarder's dead and Davy Jones is dead.
I don't think he's somebody that would have much technique. Like,
oh heavens,
like
no.
DeMarco definitely knows how fighting works, but Duke does have that like brute force.
Yep. All right, my boy Slate, the goat. I say B tier.
Oh yeah.
This is honestly, I think the argument could be made. This is one of those characters who should be like in between A and B, but because we can't do that, and he's not going up against Ashen.
I think I don't think Eli Slate on his own is good. I don't think he was that combat savvy. I think he was just a good captain. He and the Morning Star did a lot, but not him. The keyword there is him and the Morning Star.
To be fair, to that, he is a good combatant. I do want to make sure we get that clear. But in like the problem, what's the limiting factor here isn't his like combat capabilities. It's his age. That's the real issue here. Is he's just not capable of like keeping up with these other characters. Like, he fought Flameheart in a duel, and to be clear, he knew he wasn't going to win beforehand, but he was able to outsmart Flameheart, and like in a very, very like embarrassing manner, may I add. Also, so did Duke, but we can get into that later.
Yeah, I agree with the placements.
Yeah, so B tier, I think, for Slate.
Yeah.
In summation. All right, now this is an interesting one because we have so little to go off of. Ferryman. I would put the Ferryman at A tier, at a solid A tier, because the problem is we don't have many feats on the Ferryman side, but most of what we know is purely by reputation. And the fact of the matter is, he ran like a rabbit with like a, what's the term? Something about a rabbit, or is it a cat with a tail? He ran from this guy, okay? He was scared to death of this man.
And it's not even that, like, you can tell, like, during the battle, he was not very good at naval.
Okay.
Like, we had cannons on the Dutchman less than half the time.
Yeah. But, okay, to be fair, that's more of a gameplay mechanic. That's not really his fault. Yeah. But, like, again, if he had more feats, I feel like he could be S tier.
He's difficult to rank just because we don't know much about him, but
Reputation alone.
He had to have been somebody important, or at least like noteworthy, in order to have
Received
like
this
been
role.
able to get the role. Yeah.
I honestly, if there was a tier between A and S, I'd put him in that. But I put him at A tier for now.
A tier for now.
Flameheart, I hate to say it, mainly because listen, there's no denying, in my opinion, Flameheart's an S tier. He's not Davy Jones S tier, but his
argue it and put him in like high A, like just beneath S, just because like if we're looking at the rest of the tier list, 2 characters, or I guess technically all 3 characters that put a damper in his plan: DeMarco, Eli, and Duke, a combination of B's and C's. I don't think Flameheart goes in S. If he managed to survive and managed to bring himself back in all this, definitely. But the only reason he's actually a problem is because of his son.
Okay, to that effect, I would argue he's a very, like, they're just barely S tier in that regard, because
if he's an S tier, he's
the bare minimum.
S.
But like, I agree with you. Like, again, Plate, DeMarco, and Duke, like, these 3 guys outsmarted the crap out of him, and ultimately are the reason he got beat in the first place. Like, this man, in fact, actually, if you read the book. And DeMarco, but he really didn't do anything. He was just sitting on the other end of the box.
He didn't do much, but
he
it
was
also
there.
have worked if he wasn't there.
But
so
the fact of the matter is,
credit.
Flameheart he is able to bring boats from the Sea of the Damned. He was able to bring the Spanish forts. He is an Ashen Lord.
He's capable in battle. He is
capable in battle.
He has
Now, here's the thing. He is supposed to be a very smart, like, battle. He's supposed to be very battle savvy in the sense, like, battle IQ. The problem is he's not. He just isn't.
He's supposed to be like, it's said that he is that way, but from what we have seen, he is not.
Yeah, like, in the story, he's supposed to be. His feat-wise in the Sea of Thieves itself, not at all. Like, no. And the thing is, especially, like, even his return, he's not the one who's actually, like, the coup on Golden Sands.
Like,
that's not him. That's the servant. The servant is the one who deserves the credit for that, not Flameheart.
Oh yeah, no. The servant has done so much and, like, put the seas at so much more, like, edge or at war than Flameheart did.
Well, and again, this is one I need to get an explanation for, because it's driving me crazy. Why would Flameheart, as an immaterial, like, giant floating head, I get that's not exactly, the most overt ops or anything. Why would he lower himself to being an Ashen Lord again, when Ashen Lords have a very obvious weakness and are very tangibly able to die or be destroyed?
They love Harbinger.
We had no way of dealing with a ethereal, floating, giant, flaming Flameheart. But we know easily how to deal with an Ashen Lord. Other than just throw water on him, you just hit that hard a lot of times and they die. So yeah, until we get an explanation for that, no. He's an S tier, but he really shouldn't be. He really shouldn't be. Yeah. And I know that's gonna take a lot of you off. So comment your thoughts in PG words.
In PG words, yeah. I'll also say, I think the reason the majority of people like Flameheart, because I'm sorry, I don't care if this offends you, actually, I'm not sorry. Flameheart is not a well-written.
No, he is a terribly written villain.
He is the fan favorite because he is the only villain.
The only villain we have, right. No, and this is another, I'll touch on this real quick. Davy Jones is a phenomenally written character as a villain, because and again, I keep saying again for no reason, because I haven't said it before. I don't need a villain I necessarily have to relate to. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Transformers.
Yeah, no, you just
like Megatron in
in
Transformers Prime. He's evil and he doesn't care, and he's a good villain. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But Flameheart is evil and just isn't good in the sense of his story. Davy Jones is a character who wasn't evil and has a legitimate reason to be the reason, like, the thing he is. And it's because of Calypso. And, like, even in Pirate's life, getting closure on the whole idea was, like, Teodoma left him, and that drove him to be what this is. And even in Pirate's life, the moment where Teodoma gives him a chance, like, tries to undo her wrong, like, tries to give him a chance to come back, and he says no. That is what makes a good villain.
Davy Jones was somebody that actually existed. He had a place in the setting, and had a reason to be the villain. Flameheart doesn't. He is literally just the villain in this because they needed a villain. He has no other, like, lore. He has no other character traits. He doesn't really have much of a motivation or, like, an end goal.
He literally just wants to watch the world burn.
To be there.
He literally just wants to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, like how good of a character doesn't. That's not what we're scaling.
Right.
But just
this is like That honestly should be another tier list. All right. Now we get to a very good one. The Ghost of Grey Marrow. Actually, wait. Did I even get Grey Marrow? Like, oh no, he's there. Okay, I'm just tripping. Ghost of Grey Marrow. Grey Marrow and the Ghost of Grey Marrow are basically the same. It's just they are technically two different entities. I think this is S tier.
Yeah. I would say Grey Marrow is S tier. Ghost of Grey Marrow, probably A.
No, yeah, you're right. That's fair, actually. Because the problem, and here's the problem. Because, again, we don't technically have, like, official confirmation of this. But for all apparent purposes, the Ghost of Grey Marrow is literally Grey Marrow as a ghost with, like, none of his actual, like, intelligence left over. Like, he doesn't speak. He doesn't seem like we don't have no evidence of him actually, like, you know, being.
It's just like a mind.
Yeah, it's like a mindless zombie, like a hollow shell of what Grey Marrow was.
He only exists during the. He doesn't, like, he vanishes as soon as it's beat, or whatever. It's just
right.
He doesn't.
And
he
that
doesn't
is the
have
thing.
mental
He
capabilities
is
to do
stuck
much.
on the Fort of the Damned, and they tried to get him to expand. Like, they tried to expand his borders, and it didn't go so well. So I would say I agree with you. Actually, I agree with you. I think he's A tier. He could be S tier if we actually can ever find out if he's, like, you know, it's literally just Grey Marrow.
If we
like,
can learn more about
if it's
him.
like Briggsy, where she came back fully as Briggsy, it would be S tier in my opinion. Even with all the restrictions on his, like, you know, reaching out capabilities beyond the fort. For the moment, I think he's A tier because we just don't know.
Yeah. And then let's just skip straight to Grey Marrow.
Yeah, he's S tier. End of story.
Grey Marrow.
No, actually, wait. Can we do this?
Menace.
We can. All right. Can I just move him all the way down?
You know, like,
Grey Marrow's a
Grey
beast.
Marrow is he, like, again, because we talked about how Pendragon defeated an Ashen Lord without Sword of Souls. Grey Marrow, destroyed Pendragon, took the power of the sword, and shoved his soul to the table.
And, like,
Something
like,
something else that has also been brought up in the comments of the shorts before, but hasn't been stated exactly, is if we're in comparison to Flameheart, let's use the Morning Star. Eli Slay in the Morning Star outsmarted Flameheart several times and beat him.
Ow, Flame.
You know? But they still escaped. They still escaped Flameheart. They still managed to get victory against him. Yes, there were allies involved, but it still happened. Grey Marrow, on the other hand...
Grey Marrow didn't care.
Grey Marrow beat the Morning Star. They could not outsmart him.
They had to run. They literally
ran.
ran.
And they could not outpower him. Grey Marrow beat the Morning Star, whereas Flameheart couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I would rank him above Flameheart.
And not only that, like, again, like Pendragon. Like, Pendragon is supposed to be the champion of souls. Now, to be clear, the man's had a rough break. What little rough streak in recent years. But, like, that's not just something to throw around. And Grey Marrow absolutely bodied him. Like, completely disrespected him. Basically baited the Blackwick and then just slap 2 chests together and beach the entire boat. Like,
Marrow is such like
that is a villain who's bad to be bad and is actually good.
You know,
and that's the thing. Even in like the Athena's Fortune novel, you get good backstory on Grey Marrow, where he's like, he just wants the Sea of Thieves to be like, you know, it's dog eat dog. It's like actual piracy. That's why, like,
yeah,
it explains it and it establishes him as a character before he actually becomes the menace that he turns into, like, now.
Yeah, Grey Marrow is such like an underhyped and under the radar character.
Like y'all paying attention to this
that
guy.
Many people actually like know about him and how dangerous he actually is.
No, yeah, 100%. Easily the most underrated villain on this list, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
All right, Gold Hoarder. This is a tricky one. I want to put him S tier. I really do. But I don't think he deserves it.
Sadly, I don't think he can.
He would be S tier, in my opinion. He would be S tier, except like because I think you were about to say this. The fact that us pirates were able to beat him like pretty early on in our and like in
twice in
Pirate's
Storm.
Life. And
like in the end of the regular Tall Tales, we beat him in his own throne room. And then we beat him when he was trying to protect Davy Jones.
To be clear, though, off of that, people are going to be like, but we also beat Grey Marrow and Briggsy. But to be clear, shut up. The issue and that's another thing. Like, there is a degree of, you know, obviously in gameplay, we're able to beat these bosses pretty easily. And a lot of that some of that is due to, like, because crew scaling, right? The bosses are easier to do less damage. When regards to players scaling, one thing I've always done, in terms to characters we're able to actually fight in the game, is it's like, when scaling against players, it's like, okay, how likely is it pre-nerfed for everything? Because, like, again, world event bosses like the Ashen Lords and Ghost of Grey Marrow got heavily nerfed, so they're like super easy. It was based like, okay, how likely is this person going to die like just once in this fight against this boss, right? Because most players going against pre-nerf Skeleton Lords or even Ashen Lords would die pretty readily. And like, even like, let's take something like Blurbs. Like, we'll get into, you know, we'll do a partner scaling list later. Blurbs would go against the Ghost of Grey Marrow, like trying to tuck on a fort, and get one blundered like within the first 5 seconds. Like, that's where I'm getting that scaling from against players. It's reflective of how likely they are to die in that fight. Not how, like, it's not like, okay, I can just die, come back, and keep going. If you die, like, that's what I'm going off of. The fact that you died. So, if that makes sense. But yeah, with Gold Hoarder, I think he'd be S tier if he actually was in his right mind.
Because the issue with the Gold Hoarder is that he is kind of insane. He cares a lot about gold than he does combat, like Grey Marrow and Flameheart does. So I think that is just going to make. So he isn't quite to their level.
And the problem is also your mic started cutting out quite a bit for future reference.
Of course it is.
Yeah, but the Gold Hoarder has 2 Veil Stones in his head. So, you know, I understand, like, getting driven insane, you know, if you can just see all that. But yeah, I think this is an A tier. Could be an S tier if he just had a brain. Alright, Grace Morrow. I think this is a B tier.
Yeah.
Because she has a good reputation. Obviously, we don't have many feats of her in terms of in-game. But I mean,
her specialty is more of exploration than anything else.
Yeah.
We do have to give her something because she is the only crew member that managed to survive Citrogen.
I was gonna say, she got poisoned, and all she came away with was like an ugly-looking purple splotch on her face. I take that as a win.
Yeah, no. So she does have some like capabilities, but she's not like well-renowned for it.
Yeah, but it's solid enough to put her in B tier.
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow. Okay, I just want to put him in S tier. I know I can't legally, because here's the thing with Jack Sparrow.
S tier.
Here's the thing with Jack Sparrow, though. For all extensive purposes, he should be, like, in the middle of E tier in his scaling. But his luck factor, I would argue, would push him into A tier.
Well,
off of that alone.
The thing about Sparrow is he he was like sword fighting. Like,
well, and that's the thing,
Davy
though.
Jones,
He
like,
struggled against the crawlers, and then he's going up against Davy Jones, and it's like actually holding his own. That's where the scaling gets wonky.
I don't think Jack Sparrow has ever actually, I mean, other than in like the Pirates Life Tall Tales where he lost against the giant. I don't think, like, in the movies or whatever, I don't think he actually straight up lost a Cutlass duel.
Mm-hmm.
He just only ever, like, had to retreat or got what he was looking for in life. I don't think he was ever actually straight up.
Well, and
so
that's
he is skilled, but he is also very and very good at, like, manipulation and getting what from.
You're cutting
so
out
that
so much. Oh my gosh.
Oh God. Why?
No, and there's the thing going off of that. I know, like, because Jack is really witty and clever in that sense, but he also has a lot of physical feats from the original Pirates movies that do not make sense, where he's like way beyond normal human. Like the scene where he like falls thousands of feet, like on the island of the, what are they called? Pentacostus?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't like get cushioned. He's like falling through bridges. Unless, if you want to do the math, feel free. You know, do the acceleration due to gravity. Do that 9.8 meters per second squared and see where it gets you. But this man fell through multiple bridges, hit the ground, and was still conscious. Like, no actually like lasting physical damage. And then, like, in the fight, towards the end of the fight with Davy Jones, he picks up, like, this massive wooden beam and is just casually swinging it, blocking Davy Jones' sword attacks. Like, that's not what a mere human can do. I'm just saying.
Something else we can look at here is, I believe, the best character in the Sea of Thieves we can compare him to is Briggsy, and she is in A tier. So I think Sparrow would actually go... Like, if we're, like, ranking him as a character, S tier. One of the best and well-written characters in all of fiction. But combat-wise, I think he would be either high B or A.
Right. And to be clear, this list isn't, like, also... It's not just purely combat. It's more like their overall... I'm so bad at explaining this, but... Because you know what I mean, but they don't know what I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like they're ranking in the verse.
Like, getting what they want. Like...
I don't know if that's right, though. It's like...
Not quite, but...
Belle got what she wanted. She got two of the Athena's best players off the board.
Yeah, no, but she failed to do it. She needed... Like, at least, like, with Sparrow, he got us to do. He gets people to do what he wants them to do. Belle just sits there and pleads for everybody to do everything. And we kind of do it, not because we have the opportunity not to.
By gameplay, we are legally
We just kind of forced to. So, like...
I would say this list is more the ranking of the characters in the verse. Like, just... Not just in power, because I know obviously it seems like it's power, because, you know, you've got your S tier, your A tier, blah, 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 blah. I just think it's their ranking in terms of, like, again, kind of going off of the versus fights, if that makes sense at all. So I think Jack goes A tier.
Just weighing all of their pros against their cons.
Now we got one of my favorite picks, Lorena. I want to put her in A tier. That's not realistic. I think she's B tier.
I think she's a high B, I would say.
Yeah.
She managed to kick the Gold Hoarder off the...
Well, that's the thing. The problem with Lorena's character is including you know who you are on my channel. Everyone knows Lorena off of, hey, I have a favor to ask. That is permanently ingrained in the CD's community head, and it's so unfortunate.
Pirate, come over here.
Yeah, because if you actually read the lore, if you actually like explore her character, she is actually a very good character. And she's a very well-written character. Unlike someone and someone else. Yeah. So yeah, like again, she survived the Gold Hoarder. She kicked that man into like down into the abyss. You know, that's pretty impressive. And she pulled off a feat no other pirate, to my knowledge, has ever been able to. She was able to She was able to get shot out of a cannon while holding a chest of sorrow. That feat alone should put her at S tier. But we're not doing it like that. So I think this is a high B.
High B, definitely.
All right, let's study. I think it would be a disservice to her brother to put her above. I think she does rank slightly higher. I don't think it's A tier.
Higher than
I think it's a high B. I think it's a high B, like Lorena.
Like Lorena, yeah.
She's definitely a lot smarter than DeMarco.
A lot smarter.
She's the brains of the operation. She was smart enough to figure out what was going on with the Siren Queen,
which is freaking impressive,
considering
how stupid that mystery was.
Yeah, listen, and we can get to that. The real person who should have been the murderer is this lady over here. All right,
Umbra.
And we'll discuss it. No, we'll discuss it when we get to her. Let's remain calm.
Yeah,
remain calm. Lassetti's a high B in my opinion. Again, I know I did a fight between her and DeMarco, and I gave it to DeMarco because the trick is they're both very like evenly matched in the sense she's a little more combat savvy, but he is physically superior just because of biology.
He's a lot more muscular.
Yeah. So like if it was a situation where Lassetti could have prepped beforehand, if it was that kind of a deal, I think Lassetti would take that. If it's a straight up 1v1, I think DeMarco would take that.
You're just fighting on a win.
Yeah. So high B here.
High B.
Merrick. Oh no. Merrick.
My boy.
My guy. Can he even legally be in C tier?
I mean, I see. Merrick.
High C. I'd say low.
The issue is Merrick is very old.
It's the Slate thing, and the problem is Slate actually is like a decently combat savvy pirate. Merrick's a fisherman.
Yeah, we also have to keep in mind though that he lost both his legs and an arm.
No, that's the thing. I don't want to put him in D tier, but I don't know where to put him.
I don't think he gets put in D because he actually put up a fight against Amaranth, like an actual assassin who got the jump on him and stuff. I don't think he's completely powerless.
I'd say C tier.
But he's not, yeah.
And to his credit,
he's not the greatest.
He did summon the Megs. That is on him.
He did so.
And that's not a bad thing. Alright, Mysterious Stranger. I just want to get him out of the way. B tier. This also goes for his, I believe Gloria is
Mysterious Stranger is painfully average.
He's painfully. And we know nothing. There's nothing to go off of. It's so frustrating. Also, alright, moving on. And yeah, again, his female counterpart Gloria goes here as well. Pendragon. I think this is a solid A tier.
Solid A tier, yeah.
I think we've already explained enough why.
Well, something that we said like before, like when you were setting up the list, so we didn't say it in comment, is that a lot of people think that he's weaker than he actually is just because of the mistakes that he's made.
Right.
There are countless adventures that he's been on in the lore that we didn't explicitly see play through that people just completely forget exist. Like again, this guy took down an Ashen Lord before getting the Sword of Souls.
To be fair, he also drowned. No, that was also a thing.
Like he was, but he's the champion of the Order. This dude has done a lot of countless adventures.
I do want to say,
and just
being the champion of the Order of Souls, when you consider what the Order of Souls has to work with normally, isn't really saying much. Like, but to that effect, yes. Yeah. All right. This if you contest this one, you're crazy. Pirate Lord S tier. No argument.
Pirate Lord is probably S tier, yeah. He is very powerful, very smart, and he did shape the world the way it wants to be. He does have a few flaws, but so does every character on this list. So
the problem with the Pirate Lord, and again we discussed this earlier, although not in this terminology. He is the Ensign of Sea of Thieves, if you're familiar with Kingdom Hearts. He is the character who is so ridiculously overpowered, and yet he just sits there and doesn't do anything until like the last second, where it's like absolutely imperative he shows up. And that is the
Yeah,
that is
no,
the biggest frustration with
that's
Pirate Lord.
that would be the only reason why I could feasibly see him being an A. Just because, as strong and smart as he is, he doesn't do anything about a threat until it actually is, like, that much of a threat. Like, if he actually stepped in and tried to stop something when, like, there's first word of it happening, then he would definitely straight ass. But he waits a bit too long. He's a bit slow on the draw.
All right, so I think these next two go together. I mean, they kind of have to.
Yeah, Rook and...
Rook is basically a Grey Marrow, not a wannabe, but I mean, kind of. She's just a flunky who decided to have a crush.
She's the wish skeleton.
She has a crush on this dork. And to be fair, so did she, but they actually got married, so it's okay. That's adultery. We don't like that. The thing with Rook is obviously she at least knew enough magic where she could trap their souls to objects. In the lore, she's not very good. So in the book, the novel, where it goes around how the Morningstar ended up beating Flameheart and how Flameheart was defeated the first time. Basically, there is a crew of ragtag Reaper wannabes who basically, I think gangbang is the wrong word, but they trounce her. You know, they tie her up, basically force her to explain what she's doing out here, and then she explains she was following the Morningstar. She honestly is a very, very low C tier in my opinion.
Yeah, probably.
And I get, like, she's a skeleton, and that is another thing. In general, skeletons scale slightly higher than humans, because skeletons do have, like, supernatural strength in that sense. They, like, as we've had that stated in the comics and in the books, the skeletons do have slightly better physical abilities than people. But she's a C tier. Rose and George. Honestly, if it was Rose, I would say low B tier.
Yeah.
With George, I say C tier, because George
is like a D, and Rose is like a low B. So together they're like a C.
This is basic math, if you think about it. Like this is a C tier, unfortunately. And to be clear, I think their story is very sweet. As someone who is not very much into the concept of romance, I think Rose and George was good, because I remember playing through that tall tale, finding out Rose was dead, and I, like, felt my blood boil. Like, I'm like, oh, this lady is going to die. Like, you are going to pay. And I thought the fact that she gets to go with Jack Sparrow was slightly awesome and slightly aggravating, because I wish we could have been the people to go. But you know what? It's all good. Oh, that's a C tier. And my foot's cramping. Ow! Why? Okay, give me a minute. We're just gonna put, like, a little technical difficulty standing by. Alright, I'm back. Salty. Well, poor guy is an easy D tier. I'm sorry. It's a parrot. You can't justify any other ranking. He's a parrot, man.
We should do... No, because we had got Salty. We should get the Reaper parrots and just have them fight corners somewhere.
Honestly, yeah, that should be a versus fight. I will make it. Listen, if we get a comment wanting Salty versus the Reaper parrot, we will make it happen.
Oh, do it. Please.
That'll be the greatest battle of all time.
It will be the greatest.
All right, Servant of Flame. Listen, you can think what you want about the Reapers.
Servant.
As a Guardian of Fortune, pirate legend, this man is the real goat of the Reapers.
Oh yeah, no.
This honestly should be an S tier, because he is technically a skeleton. Honestly, do we give him S tier? I kind of think you do, because he's a skeleton lord. He's one of the best. He's one of the best combatants. We know that.
As a character, I want to put at S. I think realistically he gets a really high
Okay,
A.
yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
A lot of the things that people are like, oh, but the Reapers are so strong because they did this, therefore Flameheart. A lot of those, Flameheart didn't do anything. That was all the Reaper, like the servants doing. Like,
Yeah.
the servant is, like, so on top of everything. Like, even the pirate lord himself is like, how the reapers are always a step ahead of us. I don't. So this dude is capable of, like, matching, like,
The pirate lord, 2 steps for his 1.
You know, like, dude is, like, taking over entire islands, like, entire outposts, performing magical rituals, and, like, soul flame captains. It, like, shroud entire islands in fog and resurrect beings like Flameheart. Like, while this dude, like, it is stated in the, like, books and comic books or whatever that he is one of the best combatants of his time. He is very skilled. He is a skeleton lord, so he has that supernatural strength and stuff. But I don't think he has the outright.
You cut out so bad. Outright
God.
something of. Hey, watch him out.
Outright physical capabilities of, like, Flameheart and Grey Mare. But he is definitely as skilled and as, like, smart and cunning as. So while I would love to put him in S, and I think it's arguable, I think he is probably the highest.
You cut out at highest, but yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Highest A.
If he was slightly better built, if he had the, like, physical robustness of some of these skeleton lords, I think he's the easy S tier. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is he's not, and for that reason alone, he is easily the best A tier.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack. Like, you're awesome, but he's the best A tier.
Yeah.
All right, Siren Queen. This is honestly an interesting one because I feel like this is a character who gets underrated and overrated at the same time.
She was good and then got whittled down with the moment she started getting involved in recent stories, she sucks.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say a mid to high B. I would argue. Because to be fair, she was able to pull the wool over everyone's eyes with the mystery. Most of that was just Rare having horrible storytelling and not actually giving us any hints till the last seconds.
And also, the pirate lord showed up and won.
Yeah, that's what separates the men from the boys. That's why he's S tier. This man just dropped an avalanche on her. But yeah, I'd say B tier. Because we know she's a good sorcery, decent sorcery, I should say. She is a siren, so she's got that going for her. She's got a trident. If you have a trident, you're pretty much gonna wipe any of these with one shot. So you know. All right, I know you can't really tell what this one is. Skeleton Lords. I would say B tier.
Depends on the skeleton lord.
Okay.
I think clumping them all into one category is a bit off, but majority of them.
Okay, but which would you say weren't? Like, I know, like, he's technically a skeleton lord, but these are the main 3, like the 3 ones we encounter.
Okay, then I would probably put them at a low A or high.
Okay, I would argue high B, simply because, like, I think most of these characters, actually, I would argue all of the characters in A tier, could pretty easily beat these people. Like,
You know what? I'd agree with that, yeah.
I think the characters in B tier scale better to the Skeleton Lords, because I don't think the Skeleton Lords scale up to these guys. I just don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree with that.
And to be fair, with that in mind, I know I have the Lorena lower than the Gold Hoarder, but the fact of the matter is the Gold Hoarder is scales higher than these guys, and she didn't outright beat him. She survived, and there's a big difference.
Yeah.
All right, Stitcher Jim.
Oh,
This is a tricky one. I want to put him in A tier because he is an Ashen Lord, but at the same time, wasn't a very good Ashen Lord.
Ashen Lord, low A. Him himself, I'm feeling like a C.
Do we split the bill? Put him in a B? I think we split the bill.
Maybe, yeah.
And the problem with him as an Ashen Lord is this is, again, where it gets inconsistent. He was able to put up some kind of a barrier that was able to resist the Sword of Souls and Pendragon's efforts. So he's got that going for him, but he also was a very easy Ashen Lord to beat.
And by far the ugliest.
Okay, have you seen Warden Chief? But like, I feel like because he is an Ashen Lord in the end, I feel like it's a very low A. Like a very, 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 very low A. Because again, if we're going off him in his prime is Ashen Lord. So I would put him a very low A.
Okay.
Honestly, I wish I could put him over here, because putting him next to the servant is such a disservice to the servant.
Well, after we put these last 3 in, we'll go in and rearrange. So like the stronger ones are towards the front, and the weaker ones are.
All right, Suds, he's here. Get him out of here. He's an old man.
Suds has no like physical prowess, no combat knowledge or combat prowess. Dude is just an astronomer. Like,
this is a C tier because she has been kidnapped twice and has somehow managed to escape both times. That is decent.
That I will accept that.
Here's the thing, and this is where we get into it. This should have been the murderer in the mystery, in my opinion. I know you don't necessarily have that same idea.
I mean, she's so far out of the point, but also like when Rare was doing this whole thing, it was doing the mystery, and it was like, oh, who's T? And then it showed a bunch of characters whose names started with T, except Umbra, and we get no explanation as to why I'm there at all.
Well, and the other two things is part of the mystery, so we had to go to shrines, right? Yeah. Umbra has been in the shrines before because we have her books, and DeMarco's corpse had footprints on the beach. And his wreck went down way far away from Sea Dog's Rest, which meant that the Sirens probably carried his body there. Sirens can't walk, and crawlers don't wear shoes. So there was a human presence involved with moving his body.
Yeah, no. Like the Siren Queen.
And listen, how far away is Laguna Whispers from Sea Dog's Rest? Not very.
It's like 2 islands over.
Yeah, so it makes sense. And Rare just was like, yeah, let's roll the Siren Queen in at the last minute, call it good.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, Siren Queen may have been the murderer, but last I checked, she doesn't have feet or shoes to leave footprints on the beach.
Should have been her. I think sometime down the road we should get her, like, it gets revealed she was involved in some way. I will even accept if it was like with Duke, where it was like under the Siren's influence, as long as she's involved, because I think she needs to be. All right, and now we have the final entry on our list, Warsmith. I would say this is a mediocre B tier.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as I can tell, she's not particularly combat savvy, but she is really smart and was capable of making cannonballs and stuff.
Correct. And she also, at one point, was the head of the skeleton fleets as well.